Bingo. So, Will, every time we interview wrestlers, we always start with a simple question: is if you could sum your career up in one word so far with everything you've done, how would you describe it?
So my career, just fun. It's been a lot of fun thus far. Been doing a lot of like really fun things all throughout my career, just with a lot of my mates, with like my friends in North Shore Wrestling and stuff. It's been like most of my wrestling career. So yeah, I'd probably sum it up as fun.
I mean, if it's not fun, right? Well, I mean, why are you doing it? Let's be honest, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Jordan. I mean, this guy's probably in one of the best groups, obviously in Australia. Let's be honest.
I'd probably say in the world, really.
In the world, yeah. Let's say the world. I like saying that.
Let me try that again. Let's in the world, then. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, because Liam, you've not been to Australia, so it's. I mean, you can describe it well. If you want to go from like Sydney to Darwin, how many days will that take you? 4, innit?
Sydney to Darwin. If I'm walking or if we're like,
or driving.
What are we driving? Yeah, no, that's probably like
week.
At least a day or so, like of straight driving. Yeah, it's like everything. All the capital cities are quite far apart. So yeah, everything's pretty spread out.
Yeah,
I didn't ask him how long it is if you walk.
Yeah,
I don't think you make it.
I wouldn't even try to walk from Sydney to Darwin. We had a guy though that walked from Perth to Sydney once. His name's Ned Brockman. He's like a ultra marathon runner, so I think that's possible. So really, yeah, it can be done. I think.
Wow. Something you'd consider?
Definitely not. It's not my forte. Long distance running or walking, nah, I'm good.
Absolutely. Fair enough. So, Jordan, let's kick obviously off. We've got loads of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so you mentioned, Will, obviously about North Shore Wrestling. Like, how did that came about? Like, you joining it or the formation of North Shore Wrestling?
Yes, that's always sort of been a thing. Just throughout the Sydney scene, there's been a lot of different incarnations and stuff like that in different companies. But I was like in sort of the first go around. Yeah, I mean, this other company called IWA. With a couple other members, and then Sam Osborne sort of joined. So there was like a group of 3 of us doing stuff in IWA and Newcastle Pro Wrestling, up like 2 hours north of Sydney. So we were kind of doing that run for a couple years, and then sort of took it to PWA around 4 or 5 years ago and stuff. And then Sam, who's one of the members of North Shore, he sort of stopped wrestling for about a year or so. So I was doing my own sort of singles thing, and then he came back. So I think the last like 2 years we picked back up as more of a tag team, and then this past 12 months Charli Evans has joined us. So there's been a lot of like adding people, getting rid of people, but I've been there since the start. So I'd say I'm pretty much like a core member of the crew.
Interesting.
So, yeah, you mentioned obviously Charli Evans. I mean, what's she obviously like behind the scenes? Because me and Jordan are massive fans of her, aren't we, Jordan?
Definitely.
She's phenomenal. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of her work, always got along with her and stuff. And so just, being able to actually work with her alongside her and stuff this past like 12 months has been really good, because she's, I think, one of the best in the world, like best in Australia, but also I think, stacks up globally. So the opportunity to like learn from her as well and just like have fun with her and do some stuff with her has been a great experience so far. She's like one of the hardest workers in this country, I think. And I think like sooner rather than later, we'll probably see her more on the global stage. At least that's what I think she deserves.
100% agree with that. Totally. Yeah. Absolutely 100% agree with that. Jordan, back to you, bro.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously there Charli Evans, and whose idea were it to bring her into North Shore Wrestling? Because I think that match with Jessica Troy was phenomenal. And then the whole you guys getting involved and stuff like that, the heel turn, it was well played out.
Oh yeah, like that was just stuff that had been simmering throughout that last year and stuff. Had a couple chats to Charli and and Sam and stuff like that. So it was her and I sort of like chatting, and just tossing the idea up, kind of being like, what if this were to happen and stuff, and sort of playing around with that. And obviously we had a big show end of October last year, which you mentioned, with her versus Jessica Troy. We had Grayson Waller on that show, so it was our big Coliseum event, which is normally our biggest show of the year. So we're kind of just like, if we're going to do this big turn, this big angle and stuff like that, that's definitely the stage for that. So I think it all came across really well. And the last 12 months with her, with now Jack Osborne as well, who's Sam's brother, has come along. So now, like, the last 12 months with the four of us, I think has been really, really good. We've done a lot of really cool things in PWA and just in Australia. And so, I'm excited to see what the future holds for that.
Definitely, man. Over to you, Liam.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, obviously, the Australian wrestling scene. Talk a little bit about that. Do you know what's it obviously like? Because I know there's some people not familiar with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's no bias here, but I think it's one of the most underrated scenes in the world, and I understand probably why not many people will know, and that's purely like a out of sight, out of mind type of thing. Like, we're on the other side of the world, like far away from Europe, far away from America and stuff like that. So I could see no one would probably think to scope out and look for Australian wrestling. But I think if you're a fan of wrestling from Europe or from America or anywhere else, most of the places here are, I think, of really high quality. And we've had now these last like 5, 6, 7 years, a lot of success stories come out of here, like Rhea Ripley or Bronson Reed or Grayson Waller, Kyle Fletcher, and that sort of stuff. They all started in our scene, whereas like 10 years ago or so, we didn't really have much. I think Emma or Tennille and stuff was probably our first, but these last like 10 years or so, we've had a lot more success stories on the global scene. I think that's a testament to the scene we've been building here in Australia for like 15, 20 years and stuff. And so now I think like we just have such a good amount of raw talent that like everyone here is at the top of their game and sort of ready to go. You have like people in every state, I think, that could sign contracts overseas and stuff and be put on TV tomorrow and wouldn't look out of place. So I think it's top-notch scene, top-notch wrestling. It has a little bit of everything, I think, too. It has a little bit of like influence from like American wrestling, from Japanese wrestling, from European wrestling, and it's sort of like a good mix of a lot of that sort of stuff. So I think it's the best.
Absolutely. One breeze back to you, bro.
I personally say, and I would agree with you, Will, on that one, it's very underrated. I think you mentioned, obviously, with the area in the world that you are, it's quite hard for people. So it's like, we're doing this interview now, and it's like 11 hours behind. So it's like, you wake up, we go to bed. Do you know what I mean? It's just back and forth.
Exactly,
But one good thing about being in Australia is the wrestling. So it's like, for us, it's great because you put it on, like PWA, it's like 5 o'clock for us on our time or something.
Right, yeah.
That's really good. But what would you say is some of the biggest opportunities that you've had in the 10 years that you've been in the business?
So recently I got the chance to go over to the United States this past August. So I did a tour there of like the independent scene in like the Northeast area. So I did some shows in like the Boston area, the Philadelphia area and stuff. And that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to do for a while now, and just sort of like get my name out there and just get in front of like a different audience and stuff and be on shows with these different people. So that was like a bit of a bucket list thing that I was able to achieve, which was really cool. And then just some of the stuff here that we've been able to achieve in just Australia, I think is really cool. So like PWA runs this venue called the Metro Theatre, which is like a big concert venue in Sydney. So we get close to 1,000, probably like 800-900 roughly for the shows that we run there. And being able to run those like 2 or 3 times a year is very special because it's our home promotion, and it just sort of makes it feel like what we're doing is more of a bigger deal, which is really cool. Because we have like really good production, I feel, with it. So just being able to like get these big milestone shows in our home country is something that I think is really cool. We also did one last year for this place called Slam Pro Wrestling in Canberra. So that's our like capital city, which is about 3 hours south of Sydney. But they ran this sort of arena, and they had, I think it was 2,000 or 3,000 in there. So they ran that, which was like which is I believe the record for an independent show in Australia. So that was end of last year, with no like international talent there, with purely just homegrown Australia talent. So to be a part of that card last year as well was like something pretty significant and something really cool that I've been able to achieve in my career.
Really good, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned obviously PWA. How did that obviously all start for yourself?
Yeah, so I've been there past like 8 years now. So I started training at this other place in Sydney called APWG for a bit. That was my first sort of like got the basics there for a couple of years, and then about 2 years in, sort of made the switch over to PWA, to the Pro Wrestling Academy and stuff. Just because also I had more friends there at that point. I've also became more familiar with the Australian wrestling scene, which I wasn't really when I first started wrestling school. I knew there was Australian wrestling, but didn't really know the ins and outs of who was doing what at the time and stuff. But once I sort of got to familiarize myself, I sort of knew like Robbie Eagles is the head trainer, Mick Moretti was the head trainer, Madison Eagles, and they're like 3 of the best in the country. And so that was knew that was a good opportunity to learn under them, and I've been able to do that these last 8 years now. And so I think arguably it is the best school in Australia. There's a lot of really good ones across the country, but at least for Sydney as well, I think it's stacks up globally. It's really, really well run and stuff. So that was my start there.
Absolutely. I've met Robbie Eagles obviously in the UK, and do you know what? One of the nicest guys I've ever met. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, lovely guy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Brucey, back to you, bro.
Who would you say, Will, that doesn't get the recognition that they deserve from the Australian wrestling scene?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do think I'm going to do one where it's like a little biased, and then I'll think of one that's a little more less biased. But I think Sam Osborne, my partner, is excellent and should be in even more places around the country. Because I think he's got everything. Like, I feel like he's a complete package as a wrestler, and I feel like more places than already are should be hitting him up and doing stuff with him and stuff, because he can talk, he looks like $1 million, he can wrestle. Because I'm with him every single show, so I can see like how much work he puts in and that sort of stuff. Another one I would say probably Rita Stone. I don't know if you're familiar with her from PWA. She's started PWA recently, but I think she's got all the tools and stuff. She's branching out a little more this year, which is really cool. But I think she's gonna like explode within the next like 12 or so months.
Okay. Yeah, good choices there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, what's some obviously your favorite matches in your career so far?
Matches. Ooh. I did have one. Yeah, there was one last year at this Coliseum event 2024, which is the same one where Charli Evans joined North Shore Wrestling. Sam and I wrestled the Dropouts, so Tuckman and Scott Green, in a tag team match, which was just like probably one of my favorite ones. The electricity and the atmosphere in the room was really, really cool. Like I said, it was one of those sold out shows in a big venue. So there's probably like 800 or 900 people there. Like the crowd was really invested. And I feel like we told a fun story leading up to that for that past year, and to be able to sort of pay that off on a bigger stage too was really, really cool. So, I'll have that. There's one recently I had in the IWA. It was like a street fight about 2 weeks ago, but this is probably the one I'd put up there with North Shore, so me, Sam, and Jack against El Phoenician, Marley Paletti, and Jax Jordan. So that Jax Jordan is our production guy in PWA, but he's also a wrestler, so he's kind of like semi-retired. And then these other two boys are sort of new to PWA, so they're still like in their first year. But we did this street fight in IWA, which is like another Sydney promotion that I was really happy with and thought went really well. So off the top of my head, probably those two. A lot of it would be with like North Shore, with Sam or whoever, but just because I think I have the most fun there, and there's just the better vibes with that North Shore tandem and stuff. So probably those two.
Okay. I'm raising back to you, bro.
You mentioned obviously you went to America for like a little tour this year. What did you find different compared to the Australian scene to the American wrestling scene?
I think more so it's just Australia is a bit more of a community, which not necessarily saying that that's bad about America. I think because the places I'm at in Australia, it's like a PWA, which is attached to a school. Same with Newcastle Pro Wrestling and all the other ones sort of stuff. So everyone's sort of there and a part of trying to make that place better. And at least with the ones that I wrestled in the United States, everything's more independent. Everyone's sort of doing their own thing, as opposed to, I guess, trying to help this one place or one school, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either. I feel like that's probably the main difference. I think because as well, the United States has way more promotions too, and people doing way more shows. So I think for that, obviously, if you were to do a show in the United States, that's you're not as like maybe inclined to be in that sort of community, because you're doing like sometimes 10, 12, 15 shows a month kind of thing. Whereas I think the rate at which we're doing shows is a little less in Australia, just because there's less promotions and stuff. Other than that, everything's pretty similar. Like stuff like everything that I went to is well run and stuff. So like the places I went to were really good and similar to Australia. So the way they run it is fairly similar. The crowds are more similar than I thought. I was expecting there to be some sort of difference. I think the main difference is I think Australia has more of a casual crowd fan base in the that come to our shows, whereas I think in the US there's more regulars, more diehards that they attract, that come show to show, which again, both fine. I think that's just sort of the difference. Whereas in Australia, we don't have that as much repeat customers, sort of thing, that we have to kind of reintroduce ourselves each show, which I think can be a good thing because it sort of keeps you on your toes and keeps you not resting on your laurels for you as a character and as a wrestler.
Yeah. Over to you.
Absolutely. So for people who's obviously not familiar with Australian wrestling scene, what matches would you recommend for them to go and check out to give like the best representation of Australian wrestling scene?
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to think of some others that aren't me, because that'll be a bit self-indulgent. But I know I've had some good ones. But recently there was at our PWA event in August, which is on YouTube, Tuckman versus Robbie Eagles had a really, really good match. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Tuckman, but I will give him his props there. It's for the Soul of PWA Championship, which is one of our main prizes in the company. And as you know, Robbie Eagles, one of our biggest names and stalwarts in the scene, and Tuckman probably well on his way to being so to being similar to that. And they just were able to tell this really cool story that lasted about a year and a half, and this was sort of the payoff to that. And just told a really good underdog story within that. And so just the payoff to that match, I think, was really cool. That one's on YouTube too. Most of the PWA shows, I believe, are on YouTube, so you can check that one out. There's also from April, our PWA Black Label event, Jessica Troy and Charli Evans had a last woman standing match for the heavyweight title, which I think was phenomenal. And a well-deserved victory for Charli Evans there. But taking all that aside, I just think it was a phenomenal match between two awesome wrestlers and stuff like that. And so those are probably the two I would recommend someone to seek out, because they're like such high quality and such a good representation of our scene, I think. So I think if you haven't seen Australian wrestling before and you were to watch those matches, I think that'd hook you instantly.
Yeah, that Troy and obviously Evans match, that was brutal as well, let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like, if you give Charli Evans an opportunity to wrestle with like no disqualifications, with weapons at play, she's going to have some fun. She's going to get some color out there. So bring out some toys. So that'll be, it's a lot of fun watching her wrestle in that environment too, because that's her forte. So yeah, it was hectic.
Absolutely. One breeze back to you, bro.
Weren't Troy's ankle like sort of rolled in that match as well, if I've seen or remember?
So that was my fault actually. That was in December. So that's sort of what led to that. We had a 6-man tag at the end of the year. So it was like a few days after Christmas last year. We had a PWA show, and it was North Shore versus the Dropouts and Jessica Troy in a 6-man tag. In the first minute of the match, we're brawling, and I lift up Jessica Troy and plant her face onto the tables at ringside. I'm like, I'm the best. I'm so good at wrestling. And then she snaps her ankle. I'm like, oh, whoops, too bad. And then she didn't wrestle for like 6 months. I'm like,
oh dear.
Sorry. So it was hectic stuff, but got to do what you got to do to win. And then I guess then her next match after that was that last woman standing match in April the following year.
It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, you've done an intergender match as well, which is it's quite unusual because not many people do them. I mean, you did it with Shay Kassidy, and I interviewed Shay last year, and I think she's an incredible person, and she's just funny, and I think in the last 18 months, she's become in her own as well, including Kingsley as well.
Sorry, one sec. My laptop's, hold on.
So Kingsley and I would say Shay Kassidy within the last 18 months have become in their own, and you've done an intergender match with Shay this year. How was that? Did you have to like adapt and like work different?
Not really, because I think at least with PWA that's sort of the norm. With that, we don't really look at gender in any way of like splitting the divisions or anything like that. So everyone sort of wrestles each other, and being trained by Madison Eagles, who's been around for years and one of probably the best wrestlers, I think, to come out of Australia. She sort of instilled in us that the men and the women sort of fight equal. So that I've had matches against women since the start of my wrestling career. So that wasn't really a thing that crossed my mind. But with Shay Kassidy, she can be quite annoying, but I will give her props that she's quite talented. So getting to step into the ring with her a few months ago and stuff was a lot of fun. And so I don't think we'd had like a singles match up until that point. But I had a fun time doing that. Didn't get the job done, unfortunately, but maybe next time.
Oh dear. Awesome. Over to you, Liam.
Absolutely. So it says obviously on Cage Match, you were trained by somebody called Jay Law. How did that, obviously, what did you learn from him?
Yes, that was my initial trainer in Sydney. So that was at that place I referenced called APWG. It was great. He's sort of more a local guy in the Sydney scene, but he'd also done a couple tours of Dragon Gate in Japan, probably like 15 or so years ago. So within Australia, he's quite credible and quite well known, and I think a phenomenal trainer and that sort of stuff. Then he got to a point after a couple of years, he was sort of slowing down his training and his intake in wrestling and stuff. So that's obviously at that point, I still obviously wanted to train and learn and stuff. And then, made the switch over to PWA around 2017, I believe.
Okay. You also trained somebody who we like very well, Shazza McKenzie.
So she was a part of the academy when she was here, and always a fun time with Shazza and stuff. So she was taking the classes, I believe, on Thursday when I first rocked up. And it was great to learn from a whole bunch of different people when I started that had gone on to do things, and Shazza was one of them that's done stuff all over the world, which was really cool. So we had a lot of cool different perspectives and trainers and stuff around the academy when I started, and we still do. So that's why I think it's a great place to learn, because you have people from different walks of life and have had different experiences in wrestling. So it's sort of like if your goal is to go over to America, like Shaz has done that, Jessica Troy has done that, Robbie Eagles has done that, and Madison Eagles, Mick Moretti. If you want to go to Japan, like Robbie Eagles is signed to New Japan, or in Europe, like Charli Evans has wrestled all over Europe. So we've had like our trainers and our veterans there have done stuff all over the world. So it's kind of like a really good environment for that if you want to progress your career further in that regard.
Absolutely. I mean, Jordan, we've obviously both interviewed Shazza, and we can both agree she's absolutely a fun person, let's be honest.
Yeah, a bit bonkers, I would say. I won't say bonkers.
That's a good word.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll go. Yeah,
just funny, full of energy, bubbly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Back to you anyway, mate, for a question, bro.
So you've done America. Is Europe or Japan something on your cards, maybe for 2026 or 2027?
Definitely. I've always wanted to do stuff over in Europe and Japan. It's sort of like trying to figure out the right timings there. I was in the UK about 3 years ago, so I was there for a stint for 2 weeks. I didn't wrestle, but I was able to train at Play Fight with Cara Noir and Spike Trevay. So those 2 weeks training there was really, really valuable, because it was the first time I was able to train outside of Sydney and stuff and expand my horizons there. And I learned a lot from those two, because obviously they're two of the best coming out of the UK scene. So to be able to spend 2 weeks over there and just sort of learn, that was extremely valuable. So I'd like to go back to the UK and do some stuff there, because I met a lot of cool people there. And then Japan would be something that, whether it's next year or year after or wherever, would definitely be on the bucket list to wrestle at.
Interesting. Over to you, Liam.
Absolutely. So how would you describe the Australian fan base in your own words?
Rowdy. Definitely rowdy. Definitely oh my God, I'm so sorry. My computer.
So let's start this again. So how would you describe the Australian fan base?
I'd say rowdy is a good word to describe it, because I think, like I said earlier, a lot of the fans that come to our shows, at least in the Sydney scene, they're a lot more casual than other scenes. So there might be a lot more people that have never seen wrestling or have only seen like WWE and stuff, and the appeal coming to them is just a night out on the town with some drinks and having a fun time at a wrestling show. So there's a lot of like just fun chants, fun yelling and that sort of stuff, which I like. I like that sort of vibe compared to like fans that just sort of like watch and sit on their hands and stuff. I like that atmosphere of just like people getting into it and stuff, because I feed off of that energy and that vibe. But then the ones that are more diehard, I'd say another word is like loyal, because we do have a lot of frequent fans that sort of follow us around and stuff, which is really cool. And I think like to be so invested in our scene, I think is really nice and really cool to be a part of that, because I think there's sort of like the aspect of seeing us from the ground up and seeing them, a lot of our guys or girls become successes overseas. So they're quite loyal in that regard, because they've seen people like Grayson Waller and stuff, or Kyle Fletcher, who was in our scene wrestling, the now go on to wrestle on TV. So I think they like that aspect of like following a wrestler's independent journey into superstardom on television.
Absolutely. Well said. One breeze about T-Row.
So, Will, you mentioned obviously there's a lot of professional wrestlers, male and female, in WWE and AEW. For the character and the person that Will Kiedis is, where do you think you would like to see yourself? Are you more of a WWE guy or an AEW guy?
I'd love a contract anywhere, to be honest. I'm like, the main goal for me is to make a living out of wrestling, and for that to be a full-time gig. And obviously they're the top two promotions running now in the world and stuff. So to be able to get an opportunity at either of those places, I'd really like. Obviously WWE is the place that has been around forever, so there is that like childhood thing of like watching it growing up and stuff. So that aspect is really cool. But I'm at the stage now where I do want to make it a living, and both television products I think are really good and have a lot of benefits to a wrestler and their career. So not to like sit on the fence there, but I think I'm at the stage where, like I said, I would gladly take any contract from anyone that's offering it at this stage.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interested.
Okay. So is it hard to be a wrestling fan, being involved in wrestling, if that makes sense?
Somewhat. I think pretty much, like, at least the people I'm around, like everyone in wrestling is a wrestling fan or has that fandom from when they were kids and stuff like that. So not really. I think there is an element of like keeping it more professional at times, because I think there is that distinction of like, if you want to make this more of a career and stuff, you got to sort of look at it as like, now you're a wrestler sort of thing. Obviously, I think being a fan of it is still really important and still a good thing. I still am. I still watch wrestling from back in the day, from current sort of stuff. Obviously now to learn more so, but I still can enjoy it as a fan, which I think is really important. But I think if you want to progress as well, you sort of need that mindset of like, I'm a wrestler. These other wrestlers that are like big deals, they're going to be my peers, as opposed to like being a little starstruck. I think it is really cool if you see, like, if you come across someone that you're a huge fan of, obviously, like, it's cool to be like, wow, that's, The Undertaker or John Cena and stuff. I would be like that, obviously. But I think being able to balance that, I think, is very good if it's something you would like to do as a career.
Okay, good answer. One breeze about T-Row.
So you can pick anyone in the world right now to face tomorrow. Who would it be?
Ooh, anyone in the world? I'd go CM Punk. He's my guy. He's probably at the top of the list. And for the longest time, because obviously he was away from wrestling for a good 8 years. So for the longest time, I was just like, well, he's done. That's obviously impossible. Now he's back. So it's like, obviously he's in the WWE now, but if hypothetically anyone, Punk would definitely be at the top of the list. Bit of a inspiration throughout my career. So that'd be a really cool one.
Interesting. Would you, Liam?
Absolutely. So what's obviously the goals for you now, man? Do you know what I mean? You've done so much obviously in your career. What's the goals obviously for the rest of the year going into 2026?
Yeah, at least within Australia, it's just sort of to be able to build my brand and build my sort of reputation as like a top name in the country. I've been fortunate enough to wrestle almost every state and territory in the country, and this year I've like done quite a few other states. So it's just traveling around Australia is something that interests me. And then more so within the next 12 months, I'd like to travel more again overseas. I'm hoping to go back to the States around like April time to do a few more weeks there. Just to, again, like to get my name out there and all that sort of stuff. And then, I feel like goals within Australia is to be more of a name. Because now I'm doing more of a singles run, I would say, because Sam and Jack Osborne have the tag team titles now. They're holding down the fort as the tag team. So now I'm sort of venturing off into singles competition. So to be able to make a name as a singles guy would be really cool within Australia. And then long term it is just sort of making it a living, which is tough to do in Australia. Pretty much only Robbie Eagles is like a Australian guy that's not signed to AEW or WWE that is making it a living. But to be an independent wrestler in Australia, it's quite hard to do. So to try and do that in however that sort of works out would probably would be my more long-term goal.
Okay. Well, I'm breezy about you, bro.
You mentioned obviously their singles run. You currently won something about a month ago, the PWA. What's how do you pronounce the word? Mountis?
Oh, the Mountis Cup. I have a couple things. So there was a Mountis Cup, which is just like a trophy for our Mounties is our venue that we run about 4 times a year, just the Mounties RSL club and stuff. So that's sort of where that comes from. It's just the cup that gets defended each show there. And on the Black Labels in August, I won the Golden Esky ladder match. So an esky, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, is like a water cooler for the people that aren't familiar. So we had a golden one of those, put it up on the ring. I grabbed that, and that's essentially like our Money in the Bank gimmick. So I can use that to create any sort of match, any title or anything that I see fit. So we'll see how that takes shape over the next year or so.
Interesting. Over to you, Liam.
So what's the best piece of advice you've been given throughout your whole career?
So this one's an interesting one, I guess. So WWE were in Perth last month for Crown Jewel, and I was lucky enough to be a extra on for the PLE for that day, which is a really cool experience and stuff. But a few of us ended up in a conversation with John Cena, which is really cool. We were just sort of minding our own business as you would as an extra on a big PLE day and stuff. We're just sort of keeping out of any trouble and stuff, not speaking unless you're spoken to. And John Cena just sort of makes his way into our circle and then starts sort of making small talk with us, like me. Tuckman was there, Ricky South, a few like PWA names and stuff were there, and just sort of making small talk. And initially we're just like, why is the greatest of all time like talking to us and stuff? But he took like a good 20 minutes out of his day to come talk to us, and then gave us the chance to ask for advice. And I think one of the main sort of things he touched on was kind of trying to find what works for you and not try and sort of be someone else when you're out there and stuff. And then another thing you sort of mentioned was sort of to control the controllable, which is basically like there could be other factors in wrestling or in life that you can't control. But certain things you can control, whether it's how much effort you put in, your appearance, and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like as long as you control the things that you can do and put your best foot forward, you're going to see better results with that. But I think, just the fact that he came and had a bit of a yarn with us for 20 minutes, but then also gave us a chance to actually talk about wrestling and stuff, was incredibly valuable and not something that I was sort of expecting that day, but I thought was really cool. And, you know, he's on his retirement run. He's got like 4 matches left at that point or something. He could have just stayed in his locker room that whole day and done nothing, but he like made a point to come and sort of talk to us and give us advice. So I thought that was really cool.
And I bet that's going to stick with you for a while, I presume.
Oh yeah. It was hectic.
Absolutely. One breezy back to you, bro.
So you mentioned John Cena was there. Could you see him?
I could, fortunately, yeah. I was just like, wait, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh no, wait, he's here in the flesh. I saw him. It was great.
Yeah. So who was your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like it could change depending
As we stand
on what
today.
I see. It's crazy. Yeah. So as of right now, even before this recent trip, I would say John Cena. I think he's phenomenal because I feel like there's a lot of factors that come into play with a Mount Rushmore and stuff, but I feel like he ticks a lot of boxes. So I'll put John Cena there. I'll put Stone Cold on there because again, just another one of the goats. I'll put Undertaker on there, and I'll put The Rock.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty solid lineup. Yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely. Over to you, Liam.
So, obviously, for people, obviously listening and stuff like that, who are the ones to watch from the Australian wrestling scene in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years? Ooh, that's a good question. I think, like you mentioned before, Shay Kassidy, I would put up there. She's been around the scene for probably like 2 or 3 years now, but this past year, she's sort of really come into her own, and I can't believe I'm saying nice things about her, but here it is. But yeah, I think within the next few years, she's going to do a lot of really cool things. We have a couple of guys coming into the PWA Academy now. They've this sort of their rookie year. The El Phoenician and Marley Paletti. So like they're brand new, who I think have a lot of potential to do some really cool things. And I would chuck in Jack Osborne as well, who's one of the newest members of North Shore Wrestling. He's only started wrestling in April, I believe. But being able to, I've done a lot of tag team matches with him. I'm by his side. And for someone 6 months into wrestling, he's already like well beyond his years, well beyond what I was 6 months into wrestling. So it's kind of like, if he's this good, you know, in his first year, I feel like within 5 years' time, he's probably not even going to be in Australia anymore. I could see him doing stuff overseas. So yeah, probably those 4.
Okay. One breezy back to you, bro.
So I always like to, the final few questions, to like wrap this up with a inspirational message. What would yours be?
Just in general, like about anything.
Got to be positive.
Sure, of course. I think I touched on it earlier, but I think at least with wrestling and with life, you could say, just try and have fun, and try and figure out what that is for you. I would say that's pretty inspirational. But like for me, it is wrestling, and I've had a lot of fun with it the past 10 years. Obviously, I'm trying to make it something and make it a career, and that can be very stressful. But I think as long as the journey along the way is fun, then it'll kind of all be worth it. So I guess try and find what that is for you, and try and like cultivate a good environment and surround yourself with the people that can help with that, which I feel like I've been very fortunate enough to do.
Awesome. Over to you, Liam.
So as we obviously begin to wind down, man, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, sure. So we got a few shows, I guess, coming up this year. I feel like I'm done for November, but for December there's a few. So PWA Black Label have their kick-ons event December 5th. and that'd be live on YouTube. So it'd be on a Friday night. So that'd probably be in the morning for people over in Europe and stuff like that. But it's YouTube, so you can catch it also on demand and that sort of stuff. So that's our big sort of end of year one. There's a big 4-on-4 elimination tag team match. So North Shore Wrestling will be up against Team Big Fudge, and he's gotten Shay Kassidy on his team finally enough. They're still in the need of 2 more partners, so we'll see how they go there. And then at the end, there's another PWA Mounties event. So this is, I believe, the 27th of December. So right after Christmas, so that should be a lot of fun. But I know there's quite a few surprises on that one that should be really cool. And it's always fun. You know, we tried it out last year doing a show in that Christmas, New Year's period, which it's generally pretty quiet in Australia where no one really runs. But we've sort of tried to test out and see if that works, and it worked well last year. So we're going to do another one of those again. So yeah, those will be the 2 main ones coming up. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So all links to obviously PWA will be put in the description of this video and stuff like that, so people can jump to that, go support it. And Jordan, I mean, we both have to say, man, go check out PWA because they are incredible, right?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely. So, John, you want to wrap it up, bro?
So, well, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate your time, and I'm pretty sure Liam does as well, because I know it's like 10 o'clock now for you and 11 a.m. for us.
Yeah,
so really do appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to say apart from obviously what you've just said, you know, for promoting yourself? Where can people find you and stuff?
Yeah, so just thanks for having me. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. So that'd be at Will Kiedis 3000 is the handle. But if you just type in Will Kiedis, Kiedis, you'd be able to find me. And those are the main 2 sort of social medias that I'm on. So give that a follow if you like. Yeah, that's about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man, for taking your time, bro.
No worries. Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun.
I do appreciate it, man.